Okay, good morning, Ken. For the benefit of fantasy football players all over the world, can you tell us how many catches Sherfield, Hardy, and Shakir are going to wind up with this year? Yeah. No, just seriously though, obviously you're new at the number three receiver position. Just what do you like about what you've seen, and how do you feel about those three guys collectively in that role?
Well, I think obviously they bring a lot of dynamic playmaking ability to the offense. They both all got good speed, quickness, ability to be inside, outside, flex to them. So we can do a lot of different things with them. And all three have worked incredibly hard to get full grasp. Obviously, Khalil's been here. Trent and Hardy have spent a lot of time learning the offense, learning the system to make sure they've got a great grasp and knowing what to do at different positions. So excited about those guys and the potential for them moving forward throughout the year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please raise your hand if you have a question for Ken. Next question will be from Matt.
Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Matt.
Hi, how are you? We're talking to Steph this week, just ask them about like what's been different about Josh Allen. I mean, going into year 4 here, they've spent a lot of time together. You're very familiar with him. Sean mentioned maybe growing into this a leadership role a little bit more. Steph said he's noticed more confidence, more focus. From your perspective, what do you feel like is the most different about Josh this year?
I think one of the big things is, just actively, talking to those guys, watching film with those guys, and really making sure that they're on the same page, and if something isn't exactly kind of the way he sees it, making sure he's talking to those guys about it, to make sure they get on the same page. So I think that active role in grabbing guys and hey, watching tape with them, communicating at whether it's before we even get out to the practice field or after a play. Hey, this is what I'm thinking, or this is what I saw. What'd you see? Just that next step of actively becoming that coach, from the quarterback position, because he's the one out there pulling the trigger to make sure that everything is the way that he sees it, and Steph, Gabe, Dalton, Dawson, all these guys see it. So I think that's a huge part of kind of where we could take our next steps.
Do you feel like that process will really help them, like in game, when they have to adjust, when they have to kind of do something different because of the way the defenses are playing you?
I think that's a great question, because this league is about having to adjust, because it's defenses are really good. I mean, they've got good players. They've got pass rush. They've got different coverages. I mean, some teams are rely on a certain amount of coverages. Some teams rely on a multiplicity of coverages. So to be able to have that communication as much as you can up through the week, because at times you can't practice every look, and you can't give them every single look on a specific play. So that communication is huge, and that in-game communication is huge, so that we can adjust and be able to take advantage, whether it's on the sideline or mid-series, and being able to do that quickly, efficiently, and take advantage of the looks we're getting.
And one more quick one, obviously their defensive line is excellent, elite, if you will. What challenges do they present? And this unit going into the year for your offensive line, where do you feel like they're at from a cohesion, chemistry perspective, and able to deal with the looks and the rotation that the Jets D line offers?
Yeah, I think from our aspect, we've got 5 guys up front who have really spent a lot of time working together throughout camp, and even though obviously we had competitions at different spots, but I think they've got a lot of good reps together, so they've gotten a good feel for each other, and just continue to have grown as a unit in that way. So I think that's been critical for us, and obviously we try to focus on us as much as possible. In terms of the Jets and their approach on defense, they've got a very disruptive front. And obviously they do a great job of, whether it's run or pass, disrupting what offenses are trying to do. So, we've got to do as much as we can to try to neutralize them. They're tough inside and outside. So, you can't just focus on one guy up front. Obviously they've got, a bell cow up front who makes a lot of plays, but they've got a lot of guys that they rotate, and you see a lot of different bodies, all of which could be disruptive.
Thanks, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Ken, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. So on James, just what's the biggest improvement that you saw out of him maybe this camp, and what are you most excited to see out of him this Monday and this upcoming season?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing is just obviously the reps that he's gotten. He just continues to grow. So it's some of those little detailed things, whether it's pressing a hole, whether it's maybe a concept or a situation, short yardage, goal line that maybe he wasn't in the past, or and then especially when you see the preseason games, going back to those, when things are live and everything, just the ability to finish runs, I think was really encouraging to see. Those hidden yards of getting an extra, 1 or 2 yards to keep us out of maybe 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1. Those things that he's really grown and improved on, I think, just that physicality aspect of it, and not always necessarily, hey, I don't need to hit a home run. There's times where I just need to get an extra 2 or 3 yards, to help us. So those things have been big for us. And then I'm just excited to see him go out there and cut it loose, and just play free, play fast, play confident. And I think we've got a great room there. We've got a lot of guys who come in and make plays for us and spell him, and some guys that give some change ups to, a different style than what he has. And I think that's going to benefit us down the road.
And how much of maybe the additions of Damian and Latavius helped James with kind of that maturation process? And how have you seen kind of that dynamic in the running back room with maybe them passing on that knowledge to James?
I think it's a great point because they're veteran, they've got a lot of experience. They're veteran guys who've got great experience. Damian's been in a similar system, obviously, and done some things. So he's got some knowledge of some of the ins and outs, from his experience. And then obviously Latavius, he's been in this league for a while and has a great understanding for, seeing the multiplicity of defenses that he's seen throughout his career. So just some of those little things about, little detailed things that backs talk about of a pressing the hole or anticipating something so that I could be a little bit quicker on this, or whether it's that or protect from a protection standpoint against whether it's different looks or different matchups. So I think there's a lot of experience that you just can't always replicate when you bring in veteran guys.
Question, Ken, as you've had the opportunity to go through training camp and preseason, integrating both tight ends, just from an offensive perspective, when you get a tool like that in your hands, what's it like developing ways to take advantages of that, whether it's their complementary skill sets or things that they do differently? Just as the cook sort of this, give us your perspective on preparing for this season with those two players, if you would.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, you want to make sure you're doing stuff from a volume standpoint and a multiplicity standpoint that everybody can handle, because when you're doing these things, it doesn't just affect the tight ends, it also affects the receivers, the running backs, and those different positions. So you got to make sure that everybody can handle the different things that you're trying to do. Obviously from a physical standpoint, that's the case too, to make sure we're putting our guys in the best position possible to make plays for us and do the things that they do best. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity for us to change kind of the face of the offense at times and give defenses different looks, whether it is with the tight ends or with the receivers in different ways. So I think it's great flexibility and a lot of fun for everybody to kind of feel how this thing's going to continue to evolve and adjust.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey Ken, I was curious. Josh mentioned yesterday that like when he watched the games against the Jets last year back, he was like, "Oh, this was a mistake," or noticed some things. I was curious from a play calling perspective, like when you watch those games back, are there things you're like, "Oh, that was good," or like, "Oh, I would have done this differently," and what are you kind of able to take like from those games to use on Monday?
Yeah, there's no question. I think you do that in every game. I think you evaluate each call every game, and there's times where it's I liked the call, and there's times where it's, hey, if I had to do this over again, would I do something different? And I think that growth and evolution as a play caller is imperative. And it comes down to it could be 1st and 10 in the second quarter with 10 minutes to go, or it could be a 4-minute drive at the end of the game to win it. It's a constant evaluation to make sure we're putting our guys in the best position to win. So and making sure that they can go out, play free, execute, fly around, and make plays for you. So looking back at these Jets games in the past, obviously there were some things that were good. There were some things that we can improve on, and either from an execution standpoint, or a situational standpoint.
And then I was curious, just as you're preparing to do your second year in the coordinator role, like, does this feel different than last year to you? Like, do you feel more prepared, or I don't know, is it similar to last year? Like, I guess if you think back a year ago, like when you were preparing for that first game, what changed, from now to then?
Well, I think yeah, it definitely feels different. I think there's situations that you feel a lot more comfortable with because you've been in them, and when you look back in the past year, we had to deal with a lot of different situations that came up in courses of games, whether it's end of half scenarios, end of game scenarios, injury scenarios, whether it was mid game throughout the week. So there's a lot of scenarios that we had to hit last year that through really good preparation, I think throughout the course of off season and training camp, we felt good about when we had to step into those positions. And so I feel confident in our process and what we're doing and how we approach each and every week. And I think that confidence kind of, allows you to be free in what you're doing and how you're game planning and how you're calling a game.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ken. I was just wondering, now that you guys have had a little more time with Jermaine getting to acclimate to the team, what has that been like, and where do you see his role looking like?
I think the big thing is it just continues to be a evaluation process, and I shouldn't say evaluation process. I should say he just continues to grow within the system, and continues to feel more and more comfortable in what we're doing. It's learning a new language. A lot of teams will do similar things, but call it different things. Or there's some technique things that maybe we do that he's had to get used to from other places he's been. So I think just that comfort in the system is something that continues to grow for him and for us, and learning him and knowing where he's going to be most comfortable from an execution standpoint.
And then with Osiris, he was telling us earlier this week how how much he's learned and picked up since he got here, but now it is kind of getting thrown into the fire against this Jets defense. What do you make of how he's grown since he's got here and just his preparation for this game?
The one thing that's really impressed me about him is just his consistent approach and just consistent attitude and outlook towards coming in every day and working. If he wasn't so big, sometimes you might miss that he was here because he's just focused, and he's not going to be the loudest guy out on the field or anything like that. He's out there and he's doing his job, and I think we've got a lot of faith in the type of approach, preparation, and player that he is. So excited just to kind of see him go out and have this opportunity to go out and play against a really good front.